What if growing old was never meant to be a decline, but an awakening? What if youth isn't something that fades, but something that simply hides beneath layers of illusion? Alan Watts once said that the spirit within you is ageless, that behind the face in the mirror, beyond the passing of days, there is a timeless awareness untouched by time. The body changes, the seasons shift, but that which looks out through your eyes remains the same as it was when you were a child. This realization, he believed, is the secret to eternal youth. Not a youth of the body, but of the soul. We live in a world obsessed with aging, with clinging to the fleeting image of youth. Society tells us to fight time, to disguise its traces, to fear its passage. But what's odd that this struggle is exactly what makes us grow old. To him, aging was not a curse, but a natural rhythm, a part of the great dance of existence. The spirit that lives through you is not bound by years. It is the same consciousness that watched the stars form, that moves in the trees, that flows through rivers and veins alike. When you identify with that spirit rather than the shell it animates, you discover that time has no power over you. He often said that our sense of time is the grand illusion of modern life. We divide it into past, present, and future as though they were separate, when in truth, everything unfolds in one eternal now. The spirit doesn't live in yesterday or tomorrow. It lives in this timeless present. When you become fully aware of this moment, you stop aging in the only place that truly matters, your awareness. You might see wrinkles in the mirror, but your soul remains wild, curious, and infinitely alive. Watts believed that the fear of aging is born from the illusion that we are something fragile, destined to decay. But the spirit, he said, is not a possession to be lost. It is the universe playing in human form. Just as the ocean never ages though its waves rise and fall, your true self remains untouched beneath every change. To remember this is to return to a kind of innocence, to the freshness of perception that children carry so naturally before the mind learns to measure time. So when Watts spoke about remaining youthful beyond time, he was not offering comfort. He was offering freedom. He wanted us to see that the spirit within us is not waiting for eternity. It is eternity, flowing through form after form. To awaken to that truth is to live forever, not in years, but in awareness. Because when you truly realize who you are, time can no longer age you. It can only remind you that the eternal has chosen, once again, to dance in human form. Alan Watts often reminded us that what we call aging is nothing more than the body's dance with time, not the soul's. He believed that while the body follows the rhythm of seasons, blooming, maturing, fading, the spirit remains like the sky, untouched, unwrinkled, ever present. To him, growing old was not a movement toward death, but a movement toward truth. The spirit watches the body change the way the ocean watches its waves, rising, falling, but never truly separate. You're not the body that ages, he said, but the awareness that witnesses it, the timeless observer behind every breath. When you understand this, the fear of aging loses its power, because you realize you were never aging to begin with. You were evolving into greater awareness. Watts saw youth not as a number, but as a state of consciousness. It is not lost through years. It is lost through resistance. The moment you begin to fight life's natural flow, you begin to feel heavy, older, smaller. But when you flow with existence, when you accept, laugh, surrender, you become ageless. He often spoke about how the universe plays, how every form it takes is an experiment in joy. The child, the adult, the elder, each stage is the universe expressing itself differently. When you identify with the play, rather than the costume, you discover that the same playful spirit you had at 5 or 15 or 50 still lives inside you, untouched by the calendar. He believed that our greatest mistake is trying to freeze moments, as if youth could be preserved like a photograph. Life, he said, is more like music than sculpture. The beauty of a song lies in its movement, not in holding one note forever. To cling to youth is to interrupt the melody. The wise person lets each note pass, knowing that the next one brings a new harmony. In this way, Watts taught that eternal youth is not about resisting change. It's about embracing it so fully that even decay becomes a form of grace. The spirit remains young because it understands that every transformation is a new way of being alive. He often laughed at how humans chase immortality through technology, wealth, and beauty rituals, while ignoring the immortality they already possess. You are the eternal universe, he would say, temporarily pretending to be a person. The body ages, but the awareness behind the eyes has never aged a single day. The child you once were did not vanish. It became the foundation of your current self. The memories, emotions, and dreams that have shaped you are all movements of the same eternal consciousness. The spirit does not age because it exists outside the story of time. It is the storyteller, not the tale. And when you finally see this, something remarkable happens. You stop measuring life by years and start feeling it in moments. You no longer count the days ahead. You taste them, inhabit them, love them. What would say that to live like this is to step out of time's illusion and back into eternity? You may look older on the outside, but inside, you return to the same wonder that once filled your childhood eyes. That wonder, he believed, is the truest sign of youth, the kind that not even time itself can touch. Alan Watts often described the experience of time as a kind of hypnosis. Society trains us to see life as a straight line, moving from birth to death, youth to age, rise to fall. But in truth, he said, existence moves in circles. Everything flows, returns, and renews itself endlessly. The spirit is not trapped in the linear. It is part of the eternal rhythm of creation. To identify only with the body is to live in the illusion of aging. But to identify with the flow of consciousness is to awaken to the truth that there is no beginning or end, only transformation. He called this understanding the freedom of timelessness, the realization that you were never born and will never truly die. He believed that youth is not something you keep, but something you remember. Somewhere along the path of adulthood, most people forget that life was once an adventure, a game, a mystery. They replace wonder with worry, curiosity with control. Watts saw this as the true cause of spiritual aging. He said that the secret to staying youthful is not found in resisting time, but in remembering how to play. Playfulness is not immaturity. It is alignment with the essence of existence itself. The universe, after all, does not labor. It dances. The stars spin, the tides rise and fall, the wind moves freely. The spirit remains young when it joins this cosmic play instead of trying to direct it. He often spoke of the difference between growing old and growing up. To grow old is to accumulate years. To grow up is to accumulate wisdom. Wisdom, in Watts's view, has nothing to do with solemnity. It is the ability to laugh at the grand illusion of control. He used to say that the most enlightened souls he met were also the most childlike, not naive, but light-hearted. They understood that life was not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. That laughter, he believed, was not mere amusement. It was the spirit recognizing its own eternity, the joy of knowing that everything is temporary except the awareness witnessing it. Watts also saw time as a mirror of the mind. When your thoughts are trapped in regret or anticipation, time feels heavy, dragging you along with it. But when you are fully present, when you stop chasing what's next and surrender to what is, time disappears. You step into what he called the eternal now, a state in which youth becomes your natural condition. The present moment has no age. It is forever new. That's why, he said, children seem so alive. They live inside the eternal now without even trying. To stay youthful, therefore, is not to deny time, but to live so deeply in the present that time itself dissolves. Ultimately, Watts believed that the spirit's youthfulness comes from its infinite curiosity. The universe never grows tired of itself. It endlessly explores, creates, and becomes. You are that same curiosity, expressed in human form. When you stop fearing change and begin meeting it with awe, you rediscover the vitality that was never lost. The spirit keeps you youthful because it never settles into certainty. It is always discovering itself anew. The wise remain forever young, not because they avoid aging, but because they continue to marvel at the mystery of being alive. Alan Watts often said that what ages us most is not the passing of years, but the weight of resistance. The more we try to hold on to what is fading, the heavier life becomes. He described this resistance as the root of all suffering, the ego's attempt to freeze the flow of existence. We cling to our younger selves, to old identities, to what once made sense, and in doing so, we forget that life was never meant to stand still. The river doesn't fear the ocean, he said, and the flower doesn't cling to its petals. When you surrender to the rhythm of impermanence, you discover a timeless vitality that no number of birthdays can take away. He compared the spirit to a flame. It never holds a single shape, yet it never stops burning. The flame of life is not something we create. It's something we allow. Each stage of existence is a different expression of the same fire. Childhood burns bright and wild. Adulthood burns steady and strong. And old age glows deep and golden. The body may change, but the light behind it remains eternal. Watts would say that when you identify with the flame rather than the candle, you stop fearing the wax melting away. What ages is the form, not the fire. He often told his audience that the spirit remains youthful because it has no interest in possession. Possession belongs to the ego, the part of us that wants to own, to define, to control. The spirit, however, thrives in letting go. It finds joy in the act of giving, in the art of releasing. Watts said that this is why people who live with openness and curiosity seem ageless. Their hearts are not burdened by clinging. You do not keep your youth by holding on, he would say, but by allowing everything to move through you freely. Youth is not a state of body, but a state of surrender. Watts also believed that true youthfulness comes from wonder, the ability to see the world as if for the first time, again and again. He described wonder as the purest form of intelligence because it opens the door to awareness. A mind filled with wonder never becomes rigid. It remains fluid, alive, responsive. The elderly, he said, often rediscover this wonder when they stop chasing achievement and start noticing the simplicity of being, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the miracle of breathing. In that stillness, they realize they have not lost anything essential. They have only been distracted by illusions. When you awaken to this, every moment becomes new. You stop living through memory and start living through presence. Time may leave its mark on the body, but awareness remains untouched. The spirit, free from the obsession of holding on, shines brighter with each passing year. Watts believed that to live in this state is to experience eternity while still alive, to understand that youth was never something you had to protect, because it was never something you could lose. It is your natural state, rediscovered the moment you stop measuring yourself against time. Alan Watts often spoke about the paradox of aging, that as the body grows older, the soul grows freer. He believed that as the external world begins to fade, the physical strength, the endless distractions, the inner world becomes luminous. The elderly, he said, stand at the gateway between time and eternity. In that space, the spirit no longer pretends to be bound by years or labels. It remembers what it truly is, awareness playing the role of a human being. And when you see life through that lens, every wrinkle becomes sacred, a signature of existence etched into the universe itself. He compared this realization to waking from a dream. Throughout life, we identify with the character in the story. We fight, we strive, we cling to the plot. But eventually, the dream begins to fade, and we see that we were never the character at all. We were the dreamer. Watts said that this awakening happens naturally with age, if one allows it. The decline of the body becomes the unveiling of truth. Old age, he said, is not life's withdrawal. It is life finally revealing its own reflection. The spirit does not weaken with time. It expands, because the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. In his teachings, he often described how people fear aging because they mistake the loss of form for the loss of meaning. But form was never the source of meaning. It was only a vessel. The spirit uses the body like a musician uses an instrument, playing the symphony of life. When the music ends, the instrument rests, but the song continues forever in the silence. That silence, Watts said, is not emptiness. It is eternity listening to itself. When you realize this, the fear of aging transforms into gratitude for having been part of the divine melody. Watts also believed that the true beauty of aging lies in its honesty. The young often live in illusion, imagining that tomorrow will always come. The old, however, live closer to truth. They know how fragile and precious each moment is. This awareness, far from depressing, becomes liberating. When you accept impermanence fully, life stops being a race and becomes a celebration. You stop rushing to arrive and start rejoicing in simply being. This, he said, is the secret to eternal youth. The moment you stop chasing forever, you find it. And perhaps this was the heart of Watts's message, that aging does not take you away from life, it brings you closer to it. Each passing year peels away another layer of illusion until all that remains is essence. When the body slows, the spirit awakens. When the world quiets, the soul begins to sing. You realize that the timeless part of you has been here all along, waiting for you to notice. In that recognition, time loses its power, and you become what you always were, the eternal made visible, youthfulness itself wearing the mask of age. Alan Watts often said that the great secret of remaining youthful lies in remembering that life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be experienced. The moment you try to control existence, you lose the very spark that keeps you young. He described youth as the natural expression of trust, the effortless confidence that the universe knows what it's doing. A child does not question whether tomorrow will come. They play, explore, fall, and rise again. The spirit, he said, never loses this trust. It is only the mind that forgets. The aging of the mind comes not from time, but from the constant attempt to predict and manage what cannot be controlled. When you surrender to the mystery, life regains its freshness, and the soul shines with the light of innocence once more. He often compared existence to a dance, and warned that those who take life too seriously forget how to move with the rhythm. We spend years trying to perfect the steps, trying to dance correctly, while the spirit simply wants to move. Watts believed that wisdom and youth are not opposites, they are partners. True wisdom is knowing that the purpose of the dance is not to reach the end of the floor, but to feel the music. You are not on a journey to somewhere, he said. You are the journey itself. When this truth dawns on you, time becomes irrelevant. Every moment becomes eternal because you are no longer waiting for anything to begin. You are already inside the dance. Watts also believed that the spirit stays youthful because it never loses its sense of play. The universe, he said, is playful by nature. Galaxies swirl, rivers flow, stars are born and die, and none of it happens with the anxiety of purpose. It happens with pure spontaneity. When you align with this playfulness, you rediscover joy even in the simplest acts. Walking, breathing, watching light fall through a window. The child within you is not gone. It is simply waiting for you to stop taking life so seriously. The spirit cannot grow old because it exists in the eternal game of becoming. He would often remind his listeners that aging gracefully is not about denying change. It's about participating in it consciously. The spirit watches the process of aging the way an artist watches colors blend on a canvas. There is beauty in every stage if you have the eyes to see it. Watts said that to resist aging is to resist evolution. The spirit is always transforming, always exploring new forms of expression. Your current body, your current identity, are temporary expressions of something infinite and creative. The more you embrace that creativity, the more alive and ageless you become. And in that realization, something profound awakens. You stop fearing the passage of time because you recognize that time itself is part of the illusion. The present moment is the only reality, and the spirit lives entirely within it. When you live from this awareness, every moment becomes both ancient and new. You understand that the same life that once danced through you as a child is still here, still moving, still creating. Watts would say, You are not getting older. You are becoming more real. And reality, in its purest form, is timeless. Alan Watts believed that the spirit's eternal youth comes from its ability to die every moment and be reborn the next. He said that clinging to the past is what truly ages us, not the years themselves, but our attachment to what is no longer alive. The spirit, by contrast, dies gracefully with every ending and begins again without hesitation. It does not mourn what has passed. It celebrates what is emerging. He compared this to the changing of seasons. The trees do not grieve for their leaves in autumn. They trust the rhythm of renewal. To live with the same trust is to stay forever young. For youth is simply the courage to begin again. What's often described human life as the universe expressing itself through infinite masks. Each stage of life is a different mask worn by the same eternal actor. Childhood is wonder, adulthood is creation, old age is reflection, but behind all of them is the same awareness, unchanged and radiant. When you understand that you're not the mask but the actor, aging loses its sting. The wrinkles, the memories, the transformations, they are all part of the performance. And when the act changes, the actor smiles, knowing it is still the same play, the same cosmic stage. He often spoke about the tragedy of people trying to preserve the body while neglecting the soul. The obsession with remaining physically young, he said, is rooted in the fear of death and misunderstanding of life. The spirit doesn't cling to beauty, it creates it. True beauty, Watts explained, is not in smooth skin or unwrinkled hands. It is in presence, in vitality, in authenticity. The sparkle in the eyes of someone who truly sees life is the real sign of youth. That light never fades because it does not belong to the body. It belongs to consciousness itself. Watts's teachings remind us that the greatest illusion of time is the belief that we are moving towards something. In reality, everything is unfolding right now. The past and future exist only in thought. The spirit knows this, which is why it remains young. It never leaves the present moment. The elderly who live from this awareness, he said, radiate a peace that feels like youth. They no longer chase meaning. They embody it. They don't worry about tomorrow because they understand that eternity is already here, breathing through them. And this is the paradox that Watts loved most, that only those who accept change become timeless. When you stop trying to stay young, you awaken the youth that cannot die. The spirit's vitality doesn't come from resisting time. It comes from moving through it with grace. Life is not a countdown, he said. It is an unfolding. To live without clinging, to die without fear, to love without condition. This is what it means to remain young beyond time. Alan Watts often said that the spirit remains young because it never stops learning. Curiosity, he explained, is the natural expression of consciousness exploring itself. The moment curiosity dies, so does the feeling of youth. He believed that when we become rigid in our thinking, certain of our beliefs, unwilling to see differently, we begin to decay not in body, but in spirit. To stay young is to stay curious, to look at the world as if it were brand new every morning. The wise, Watts said, never claim to know life. They are forever discovering it. This humility, this openness, is the true fountain of youth. It keeps the spirit alive, playful, and endlessly renewed. He often warned that society conditions people to trade curiosity for certainty. We grow up chasing answers, collecting facts, defining everything. And in doing so, we lose wonder. But the universe, he said, is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be danced with. The spirit, Watts said, ages only when it forgets how to marvel. To see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to find the infinite in a single breath, in the sound of rain, in the quiet rhythm of life. That is how you keep the soul young. When curiosity returns, time slows down, and life becomes vast again, as if you were seeing it through the eyes of eternity. He often used the image of a river to explain how the spirit moves through life. The water does not cling to any shape, yet it never loses itself. It adapts, transforms, reflects, and renews. In the same way, Your spirit remains young when you allow life to flow through you without resistance. It doesn't mean indifference. It means trust. What's believed that when you live with trust in life's intelligence, you stop hardening against change. Every experience becomes a new current in the great river of being. The body may weaken, but the spirit grows stronger in fluidity. The more you allow yourself to flow, the younger your energy becomes. He would also speak about how laughter is the language of the timeless. Those who can laugh, he said, have remembered the truth. To laugh is to acknowledge that existence is both profound and playful. It is the spirit's way of saying, I understand the game, and I'm enjoying it. People who laugh easily, who do not take life as a heavy burden, embody youth no matter their age. Laughter dissolves the illusion of separation, reminding us that the divine has always been dancing beneath the seriousness of human drama. What's called this the sacred humor of life, the awareness that everything is both meaningful and absurd, divine and ordinary, eternal and fleeting. And it is through this sacred humor that the spirit transcends time. When you laugh at the illusion of control, when you smile at the ever-changing nature of life, you align with the flow of existence itself. Time cannot age you because you no longer belong to it. You belong to the eternal moment that exists beyond it. What's often said that the people who have truly awakened carry a lightness about them, as if they remember something the rest of the world has forgotten. That remembrance, the joyful recognition of life's endless play, is the essence of youth beyond time. Alan Watts believed that to realize your ageless spirit is to rediscover what he called the eternal now. The body lives within time, but the spirit exists only here, never yesterday, never tomorrow, always now. This moment, he said, is not a point on a timeline. It is the entire universe expressing itself through you. To live in the eternal now is to awaken from the illusion that you are a traveler moving through time. You are not moving through anything. You are the stillness within which time unfolds. And in that stillness, youth becomes the natural state of being, for the present moment never ages. He explained that most people grow old because they spend their lives elsewhere, in regrets of the past or worries of the future. But when you bring your awareness back to this moment, you reconnect with the source of all energy, all vitality. You begin to feel life moving through you again, not as something happening to you, but as you. This realization rejuvenates not only the mind but the very cells of your being. Watts believed that presence itself has healing power, that consciousness, when fully awake, renews everything it touches. When you stop measuring life by time, you begin to feel the eternity pulsing within you. He also taught that the spirit's youth is rooted in its unity with all things. Separation, he said, is the real aging force. When you see yourself as an isolated being, cut off from others, from nature, from the divine, you begin to contract. Fear, greed, and loneliness take over. But when you awaken to oneness, when you see that every breath connects you to every tree, every ocean, every star, the heart expands, and energy flows freely again. Unity, not isolation, is the secret to eternal vitality. The spirit cannot grow old because it has never been alone. It has always been the whole. He often described enlightenment as the rediscovery of this wholeness. You are the universe, he said, experiencing itself for a while as a person. When you realize this, the fear of aging disappears completely. You see that the universe has never aged. It is forever creating, forever renewing. You are that same process, expressed in human form. Each breath, each heartbeat, is the cosmos breathing and beating through you. The spirit keeps you youthful beyond time, because it is time's master, not its prisoner. And so, Watts left us with this paradoxical truth. You cannot become youthful. You can only realize that you have never been anything else. Beneath every change of form, every passing year, the eternal spirit remains. It watches, it plays, it learns, it laughs. And in every moment, it invites you to remember. Because when you truly awaken to who you are, you will see that the body may age, but the consciousness behind your eyes is as young as creation itself. Endless, luminous, and forever alive. So perhaps, after all these reflections, the true secret of eternal youth has nothing to do with the body. It lives in the awareness behind it. The spirit doesn't measure years, it measures presence. It doesn't fear time, because it is the pulse of time itself. Alan Watts would remind us that we are not travelers passing through life. We are life, discovering itself again and again through countless forms. The body may wrinkle, but the consciousness that looks through those eyes is as ancient as the stars and as new as this very moment. When you see this clearly, aging becomes not a decline, but a continuation of the same beautiful unfolding that began before you were born and will continue long after. He taught that the spirit's timelessness is not a philosophy. It's something you can feel right now, in the stillness between breaths. That quiet awareness within you has never aged. It has watched every chapter of your story with the same calm curiosity. You are the witness of all change, untouched by change itself. To realize this is to awaken to the truth that youth was never lost, only forgotten beneath the noise of worry and the illusion of time. The spirit is not asking you to fight aging. It's asking you to see through it. When you begin to live from this realization, every day becomes radiant with meaning. You stop rushing to preserve the past and start celebrating the miracle of the present. You laugh more, forgive faster, love deeper. You stop taking life as something to survive and begin to live it as something to express. The universe, Watts said, did not make you to last. It made you to dance. And the dance has no destination. It is eternal. When you live with that understanding, youth becomes not a memory, but a constant rediscovery, a state of wonder that no number can define. Watts often reminded us that to be truly alive is to stay amazed. The same childlike spark that once looked at the world with wide eyes is still within you, waiting to be seen again. The moment you stop searching for youth outside yourself and begin to recognize it as your very essence, you free yourself from time's illusion. You realize that the spirit has never aged because it was never born. It is the infinite looking through finite eyes. And when you remember this, you begin to see life not as something slipping away, but as something endlessly beginning. If this message touched something deep within you, let's stay alive. Keep exploring these ideas, share your reflections, and join others walking this path of awareness. Subscribe to stay connected, leave your thoughts below, and let's continue awakening together. Because as Alan Watts once said, you are not a fleeting spark in time. You are the eternal fire itself, pretending, for a moment, to grow old.